Hello everyone and welcome back. I hope you're doing well. It's good to see you again. Today we're talking about Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. No spoilers here, just for anyone that hasn't seen it. I won't ruin anything. I just want to briefly talk about what I think and whether you should go out and see it. So Black Panther, Wakanda Forever is directed by Ryan Coogler, the man responsible for giving us the first film. And man was he stiffed with the tragic loss of Chadwick Boseman. He completely finished the script for the second movie, and then the death just kind of came out of nowhere, and he handled it about as good as you possibly could. They didn't recast him, they didn't try to work around him being there and just having it be about the other characters. A good idea was made somewhere along the line so that the characters would face the same adversity and struggles that we were facing when all of a sudden he passed away. It was a very smart move because, I don't mean to be cynical, but it is a hell of a lot easier for actors because you're not acting, it's real pain, and you can't really see that line between acting and real in the movie. So there's parts of this that feel like a real, genuine, heart-wrenching experience. And whenever this movie focuses on those aspects and how the sudden loss of T'Challa kind of challenges their beliefs, the movie's great. There's some amazing monologues in this movie that are just really high up there. All those aspects, as well as just the characters and acting, are the best part about this movie. I really like the first act. The second act kind of overstays its welcome a bit, but I don't want to say I hate it, but I really don't like the third act because it falls straight into the pitfall of, it's a Marvel movie, we want you to have an MCU blockbuster experience as well as kind of feeling stabbed in the heart, and it's this inconsistent tone along with a couple of other problems that really kind of bring this back down for me. Don't mistake me if you have seen this movie. I think it's really good, but it just drops off the end for me. All of a sudden we're gonna go big CGI battle and we're gonna have the really over-designed costumes which aren't like a plot or character problem, but it's just something that I'm really growing to dislike. I really don't like Letitia Wright's Black Panther costume. It's in the marketing material, I don't think that's a spoiler. I think the way they handled Chadwick Boseman's passing in this was about as good as it possibly could have been done. I do not envy the circumstances that Ryan Coogler and everyone else had to face in trying to make a project like this happen. Because in a perfect world, for me, I probably just would not have approached the project. Let everyone just think that T'Challa got a happy ending and Wakanda, they're off and they're doing their own thing. Instead of, the big mess Disney saw the first one made $1 billion, so we have to make another. Leave the franchise alone as Chadwick Boseman's legacy, but it's not the case here. And under those circumstances, this movie is about as good as it could have been. My biggest problem with this movie is probably its tone. I'll give you an example. There's a very revenge-based, personal vendetta storyline happening, and that's happening in the climax, like 2 separate locations where fighting is happening. And it's very pivotal and emotional to the characters, but then it cuts back to this other bigger set piece that's just, it's a Marvel movie, look, we're making quips while fighting the bad guys, and it jumps back and forth between the two, and it's just so inconsistent. I personally think the first film is better. That's in large part to Michael B. Jordan's Killmonger. Not that Namor isn't a good villain. He's actually a very well-developed villain considering the MCU's list of villains that have just been not great. But he's actually surprisingly well-developed. But I didn't connect with it like the way I wanted to. I wanted to feel this character's pain, and I just didn't. And I'm not sure why. Maybe it feels a little too artificial, like they had a perfect checkbox of this character has to say this, this, and this to perfectly craft this kind of villain, and it is done right, but something just doesn't feel genuine. Everything feels a little forced, or maybe it's because we've seen this done so many times before. At least with something like Black Adam, it knows what it is, it's very aware of the oversaturation of the genre, and doesn't try to be anything special, where this kind of comes across like it's trying to bring something new to the table when there just isn't anything there. I'll give you a brief example of what I'm talking about. At the end of Civil War, T'Challa gives a speech, and the line was, "Vengeance has consumed you. It's consuming them. I'm done letting it consume me." That's great. And then there's a line at the end of this new film, Black Panther Wakanda Forever, that goes, "Vengeance has consumed us. We cannot let it consume our people." It's not a bad message. It's still just as good and as valuable as the first one, but we have seen it before. Something about it just kinda felt hollow to me. But then there's other points in this film where it hits hard, right in the feels, and it does a great job. I'm very conflicted on this movie. I like 80% of it, and then 20% is just kind of shockingly, oh my god, wow, you went from all this great stuff and great character development to, we have to set up Ironheart because this is a bigger MCU, and we have to have Val, the lady with the purple stripe in her hair. Remember Val, guys? She's here as well. And all that stuff is extra stuff that doesn't add to the bigger picture and what the message of this movie is. And it could have been cut. You did not need to have this here. And it pads the runtime to almost 3 hours. Avatar: The Way of Water, maybe 3 hours, but at least it's a bit more concise. There's a little bit of self-indulgent, look at what we can do, but it's focused. But despite my issues, I can't knock the great things that it does, and it is still a good movie. You know, we're not living in the late 90s or early 2000s of superhero movies where it's just shocking. By those standards, this is still fine, you know, but we're running out of originality. How many carbon copies of the same Marvel movie can we go before it starts to just drop? Phase 4 in its entirety has kind of been on that drop. I think Thor: Love and Thunder almost killed it. I dislike it a little bit more than I did when I reviewed it. I probably was a little too favourable. And I don't want to go back on my word. I just rewatched it a second time and the jokes really, really kill it. Any dramatic tension is gone. But that's Thor: Love and Thunder. I've got a review for that if you want to see it. It's very all over the place because when it is just emotionally devastating because we did lose Chadwick Boseman, it's so real and it really hits home. But then it wants to be a superhero blockbuster MCU film, and the joking at the end, despite the very heavy and grounded themes that the movie was portraying earlier, just the juxtaposition's crazy. Maybe I'm just overblowing it a bit. I'm just very mixed. It's still good. For me, Black Panther: Wakanda Forever is going to get a 7 out of 10. At this rate, I feel like all I do is give movies 7s. I don't want to be the 7s guy, but they're all just good, and then occasionally you get something that's great, and then bad movies I tend to avoid unless they're shark movies. So Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, did you guys see it? What did you think? I thought it was good, but it's got issues and it holds it back from being something special. If you haven't already, consider subscribing and dropping a like on the video. I really appreciate it. As always, guys, if you've made it through to the end of the video, you're a bloody legend, and hopefully I'll catch you guys next time. Bye, guys.